Hi, Simon Chapple here. I'm the founder of Be Sober, and I'm also the author of this book, The Sober Survival Guide, which some of you have probably read and some of you may never have heard of. I also run the Be Sober Facebook community, which is one of the largest quit drinking groups on the internet. It's got over 10,000 members from all around the world. People who want to quit drinking, people who are curious about quitting drinking or want to drink mindfully, all helping each other on their journey and finding out tips and tactics about the best way, not just to quit, but to quit and enjoy it and to do it successfully and to see it as a lifestyle rather than being deprived and having something taken away from them. Really thinking about what they're gaining instead of what they might be losing. This video is about one of the questions that I get asked so often. I'd say it's probably in the top 3 most common questions that I get asked as a sober coach. And that question is, when will I stop thinking about drinking alcohol? And I get asked it by people who are new to sobriety. They might have quit for a week or a month, something like that. They might have done one of the 30-day programs like the Alcohol Experiment by Annie Grace from This Naked Mind, who I'm lucky enough to work with and coach in her groups. And it's a great question because I felt exactly the same. Before I quit, all I was thinking about was, how can I stop drinking alcohol? How can I do this? I drank every single day for over 20 years, red wine daily, and I never thought I could stop. I couldn't even imagine one day without drinking. So when I won't go into how I quit, you can look at that on the other videos. There's tips, there's tactics, there's absolutely stacks of stuff to help with that. This is about when you're going to stop thinking about drinking and get past that point where instead of it being an all-consuming thought that keeps popping into your head every 5 minutes, you're in a place of peace and calm. So I was thinking about that so much before I quit, and finally I managed to do it. As I say, there's lots of videos that share those tips and tactics. But after I quit, the thoughts about alcohol, wow, they were everything from cravings and a desire to drink. For example, if I'd had a great day at work, my mind, it's like I had a little devil on my shoulder saying to me, Simon, you've had a great day at work, you deserve a drink. Or if I had a tough day at work and maybe I had a difficult client on the phone or somebody complaining, then the same would happen. You've had a bad day, you deserve a drink. And then as the days without drinking went by, that little devil on my shoulder was saying to me, Simon, you've had a week without drinking. You owe it to yourself. You deserve it. And it went on and on. And then as well as the thoughts that were craving and telling me to have a drink or pushing me to have a drink, I was also just thinking about alcohol generally all the time and how it might make me feel better, or thinking about sobriety in general. It was just alcohol thoughts all the time. And that was probably also because I was in a lot of Facebook sober groups, so my social media feeds were filled with sober talk, alcohol talk. I'd often see posts from people who had unfortunately quit drinking and they'd had a setback and they were sharing that, which was probably the last thing I wanted to see at that point in time. And the same on Instagram. You know, I follow lots of the sober influencers on there, as well as people who I coach and people who I connect with and have been inspired by on my own journey. So again, my feed was full of all this sober talk, alcohol talk, that kind of thing. So it was a combination of cravings and a desire to drink and thinking that alcohol would bring me some kind of benefit, not that it ever did, as well as a combination of just thoughts generally about sobriety, alcohol-free lifestyle, that kind of thing. And I did wonder, because these thoughts were just all the time. It was like waves coming into the sea and back out again of these thoughts, emotions and feelings going on all the time. And I just wondered when they were going to stop. I remember those first couple of weeks, it was probably every few minutes I was thinking about it. So first of all, if you're watching this video because you've been looking for answers to when you might stop thinking about drinking alcohol, just know I was in exactly the same place, and so have been thousands of other people. So don't worry, there's nothing unusual going on. It's not you, it's just what happens often if you've drunk regularly for many, many years, particularly if you were like me and you were a daily drinker. So it's kind of to be expected. It's a big change. You've literally changed your life around. You've stopped this habit that you've had for a long, long time. There's going to be those kind of little bumps in the road, especially as your mind and your body are recalibrating after you've stopped drinking on a regular basis. So expect to have those thoughts, expect them to come up. And there's a couple of other videos on the Be Sober YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to right here just by clicking the button below, that actually help you deal with those kind of thoughts. Instead of running away from them, if they're really uncomfortable thoughts, feelings, emotions going on, you're far better, instead of trying to push them away and suppress them, to actually face up to them. And we've got some awesome tactics that I share in some other videos. There's one involving an elephant. I won't spoil it, but do have a look at that. You can see it on the video. There's a big picture of the elephant on the screen, but I'd definitely recommend having a look at that one. And I'll put a link to it towards the end of this video. So if you want to jump straight onto that to learn how to actually manage these thoughts, and in fact, not just cope, you're not going to cope with them, you're going to embrace them and you're going to enjoy them, and you're going to take away the power of those thoughts. And that can be an incredibly empowering thing to do. So as well as having some tactics for dealing with these thoughts, the question you want answered, I'm sure, is, how long does it take to stop thinking about alcohol after you've quit? Because it's annoying. That's the fact. It bugs you. You just want to get on, have a peaceful life and be happy again. And I felt exactly the same. The simple answer to the question, in a number, if I had to put a number on it, I would say it was around probably 4 months, 5 months, where I really was not thinking about drinking at all, where that it had faded to almost nothing. I know some people who it has taken a couple of months and they're in that place, and then for other people it can be 8 to 12 months, but for me I would say 4 or 5 months. However, it wasn't just a case of I was thinking about drinking every 5 minutes and then one day I woke up and it stopped. What happened was, it was a gentle process of maybe the first couple of weeks. It was thought after thought after thought, difficult feelings, challenging emotions that I had to kind of ride through. Scott Pinyard, who's one of the coaches I work with at This Naked Mind, and he's absolutely awesome, and you should check him out if you don't know him, but he uses the term surfing the thoughts, surfing the feelings, and I really like that, because what it means is we're not reacting to them, we're just kind of surfing it, sitting with it, kind of acknowledging it and just going with it, but not getting carried away, not crashing off the surfboard into the dangerous waves below. We're just surfing it. And you can do the same with urges, surf the urge as well, but that, again, that's another video for another day. So what happened was, a couple of weeks of those thoughts and feelings and emotions where they were coming thick and fast, like waves, strong waves coming in and going back out again. And then after a couple of weeks, I realised that I was getting stronger. My mind, my body was really starting to rebalance and recalibrate. And the thoughts became less and less frequent. So perhaps instead of every 5 minutes, it was perhaps every half an hour or hour. And just as time went by, the time in between the difficult thoughts and difficult feelings got longer and longer apart. I can remember actually one morning, and I'd woken up and I'd thought about being alcohol free and not drinking, and kind of remembering that I don't drink, that weird moment when you wake up and you remember something again. And then I actually recall not thinking about alcohol or anything to do with it until after lunchtime. I hadn't actually looked at my social media, so nothing had reminded me. And I was really busy that morning. And I remember thinking, wow, that's the first time I've thought about drinking or sobriety at all today. And I knew that it was getting better. And a really, really great thing to do, and I encourage everyone who quits drinking to do it, is to keep a journal, so that you can actually kind of keep a log of this stuff, and then you can see how much you're improving. After a few weeks, you can look back at the start and you can say to yourself, I'm only thinking about drinking 5 or 10 times a day compared to 100 times in the first couple of days, or 50 times in the first couple of days. And that's such an awesome thing to do. And not just in terms of thoughts that come up and feelings that come up and emotions, but everything else as well. You can write down your big wins. Perhaps you've gone out to a pub for the first time and enjoyed socializing without alcohol and experience that. You can put that down in your journal. And there's a million and one things you can write down in there, but it's such a great practice because you can just look back at it, you can celebrate your successes, you can learn from your setbacks using your journal, and you can just help it to grow stronger. Because as I've mentioned in other videos and my Be Sober website and my group, this isn't just about putting down the glass and not drinking anymore. It's a journey of self-discovery and a journey of self-improvement. By quitting drinking, you unlock the door to so many other things that improve your life in so many different ways. But without doing it, it's easy for me to sit here and tell you how my relationship with my son is 100 times better, how my relationship with my wife has improved so much, my productivity, my levels of engagement, motivation, my skin, my eyes, my tongue's not purple anymore. I feel so much happier. My anxiety went away. The list is endless. You can read it all in my book, actually, if you want to delve into it. And you can get the first 10 chapters free on my website, besober.co.uk. If you wanted to have a look at that, it's got my story in there and loads of tactics and information about quitting drinking. But anyways, this is not an advert for my book, but it may help some of you. So really what happens when we quit drinking is we go through several stages. For me, before I quit drinking, there was about 5 years where I knew I had a problem. I just did not know what the hell to do about it. So I was kind of in a stage that I would call awareness. I was aware, but I didn't know what to do. And lots of people are in that place. And it's actually one of the most difficult parts of the journey. You'll be pleased to know, because I think if you're here, you're probably if you're watching this, it sounds like you've probably quit drinking and just want to know when the hell you're going to stop thinking about alcohol all the time. So if so, congratulations. But if you are in a stage of awareness, the good news is you can quickly move out of it by taking some action. And the action that I took and the next stage was education. I read just about every sober book I could get my hands on. I listened to podcasts, I was reading websites, blogs, following all the sober influencers on the internet, on Instagram, YouTube, and just trying to soak all that information up like a sponge and learn as much as I could about what an alcohol-free lifestyle looks like and the best tactics and strategies for actually successfully quitting drinking. And that worked. It worked really, really well. And after you've educated yourself, it's very much a process of changing your beliefs. We've held beliefs, well I did anyway, beliefs that I couldn't have fun without alcohol, that I couldn't be stress-free without alcohol, that I couldn't be happy without alcohol. So I'd learned and educated myself that I could do those things. I could be happy without drinking. I could be stress-free without drinking. But I needed to put it into practice in the real world. So that was the next stage for me, was practice and actually putting this stuff into my real life so that my beliefs around it started to change. And I remember one in particular. I went to my first ever gig sober. I went to see Mumford and Sons at the O2 Arena in London. And it was awesome. One of the best things was when I got there, when I used to go to a gig, I would go to the bar and I would always buy 3 pints of beer, because you want to get into the crowd. You don't want to keep coming back out again all the time. So I always got 3, and they were so expensive as well. And I remember I used to hold 2 like this, and I'd often hold 1 between my teeth like that. If someone else was with me, I'd get them to buy a couple more, so we had a real stack of beer going on. And what a joy, going to a gig and not having to go to the bar and get loads and loads of pints of beer. And of course, when I used to drink, I'd do that, and then I'd get through those as quickly as I possibly could, and then I'd refill. And in between that, I was having to go to the toilet to pee so often. I've got the weakest bladder in the world anyway, so that just added to it by all this pints of beer that I was putting into me. So when I went to see Mumford and Sons, it was like a revelation, because there was none of this. I think I perhaps peed just before I went. Not that you want to know this stuff, but that's what happened just before I went into the arena. And not again, because I wasn't guzzling down pint after pint of liquid. And we got quite close to the front. I actually managed to remember almost the entire set list for about 3 or 4 weeks afterwards. I couldn't tell you it now, but having memories of the event was amazing. I can still visualize the stage, and I can visualize certain songs and remember the atmosphere. We are actually stood next to David Beckham's kids, Romeo, Harper and Brooklyn, which was cool. So I remember it all. If I was drunk, I probably would have made an idiot of myself and asked them for selfies or something stupid like that. But no, it was just great fun, and I danced and I sang and I just had an awesome time. And how cool to be able to drive myself home at the end of the night and get into my comfy bed. The room wasn't spinning. I wasn't sick. I didn't fall up the stairs. I didn't have an argument with my wife, and I woke up the next morning hangover free, slightly tired because we didn't get in till 1:30 in the morning from what I remember. And I just had wonderful memories, and it was absolutely brilliant. So the point I'm trying to make is that was when my belief changed, that yes, I could go to a gig, I could go out and have fun without drinking. I didn't need the alcohol to do that. So that was that next stage. It was very much a stage of putting into practice what I'd learned, and that's a really good example of how that happened for me. And of course, there's been weddings, holidays, and things like that without drinking. And every time one of those kind of milestones happens, it's another belief that's really formed in concrete that has changed. So from there, when I was putting it into practice, I just kept getting out into the real world, really trying to embrace the lifestyle. Because to me, it's a lifestyle. It's not a sacrifice. It's a lifestyle that I live and I love. And I moved from a stage of putting it all into practice to a stage of feeling like I'd mastered it and I had it cracked, and I knew I would never drink again. And of course I've shared my story from the very beginning, and I've helped other people on the journey as well, which really made me feel accountable. And when people said that they were really being helped what I was doing, it absolutely kicked me on and made me want to just do more and more of it. So definitely, I would say probably around that same time, 4 to 5 months in, I felt like I kind of had it mastered, had it cracked. I still didn't want to be complacent. I wanted to keep my guard up and stay on the ball. And yet there's still times, even now sometimes, where I'll go past a pub, maybe on a summer's day, and there's people sat in the beer garden with a long pint of beer, and it looks appealing just for a moment, but I know that all it is a thought. And we have 100,000 thoughts a day, maybe more than that. And I just see it for what it is, a thought, and I let it go. I don't react to every single thought I have. I listen to it, I get rational, and I just kind of observe it and let it pass like a cloud in the sky. And again, if you watch a lot of the videos on my YouTube channel, you're going to learn tactics for dealing with those thoughts. So as I say, I reckon in a lot of cases, to completely stop thinking about drinking, you've got to give it 4 or 5 months till you get to that point where you're really putting into practice what you've learned and you're starting to master it. However, in the time that runs up to that, you will find the thoughts have become far less frequent. It's really probably that first 2-3 weeks where you're thinking about alcohol a lot, but disrupt it, do something else. You're going to have a lot of time on your hands, so keep yourself busy, keep yourself engaged. Again, there's tips all over the place on my YouTube channel for this sort of thing as well. And just before I finish, quite a funny story in terms of me not drinking. My wife and I, we have a date night every 2 weeks. One time it's her decision where we go, and the next one it will be my decision where we go, and yesterday was her decision. So we went to an Indian restaurant for a curry because we both love curry, and we were sat talking. Now she drinks moderately, so she has the odd beer, she drinks the odd glass of Prosecco here and there, and of course I do not drink, that's my lifestyle. And I had a 0 alcohol beer, she had a pint of regular beer. and we were sat talking, and I was showing her something on my phone. We were engrossed in conversation, and as we were talking, I was so engrossed in what we were discussing, my hand reached out and picked up what I thought was my glass, but I'd accidentally picked up her glass of beer, and I moved it towards my lips, and I was about to take a sip and literally would have ruined my sobriety. And no drop of alcohol has touched my lips for all this time. You know, it's like would have just mortified me. And as it came to my lips, just in a flash, she pulled the glass away, took it away from my hand and said, "You've got the wrong glass, you're going to drink alcohol, what are you doing?" And I realised I'd picked up this wrong glass. I couldn't believe it, and I couldn't believe how quickly she reacted. She was like a superhero pushing somebody out of the way of an oncoming train and saving their life, which was what it felt like to me. So that was really good. But I suppose the lesson to learn from that is, don't get complacent. Even when you feel like you've mastered it, do just keep an eye what glass you're picking up, who you're around, if there's people who might think it's funny to put something in your glass or anything like that. You know, just keep your guard up. I often will smell my drink when I haven't seen it poured, just to check that I haven't been given the wrong one, or it's got something, you know, in it like a spirit or other alcohol that I don't want to drink. So it was a lesson to me, and I don't feel I'd got complacent. It was just a moment where I wasn't paying attention, but I feel like it was just a reminder for me to keep my guard up and not to get complacent. So anyway, on that note, I will sign off and tell you not to worry if you're having thoughts about drinking, especially if you're new to quitting alcohol. They come thick and fast at the beginning for most of us, but it gets easier and easier and easier. And your best bet is to journal it and keep a note of how often and how many thoughts you're having, if you want to do that, if that feels good for you. And you will see that it just becomes less and less frequent, and it gets easier and easier on the journey. And you just learn more and more, and you grow stronger and stronger, which is why I wore my positivity hoodie to say, just keep a positive mind and a positive outlook as you go forward, and you will absolutely smash sobriety as you start to see all these wonderful changes and great things happening. I mean, I used to have anxiety like 8 out of 10, and it's faded to 1 or 2 out of 10 since I quit drinking, and that was the reason. That was the only change in my life, and it's completely got rid of it. So yeah, if you suffer from any kind of mental health issue, depression, anxiety, stress, difficulty sleeping is another big one, you're going to see so many incredible things happen. So try and get excited about all these gifts that are going to come your way. You're gonna have a great time, but it can be tough at the beginning. And hopefully the videos here on the Be Sober channel are going to help you and hold your hand as you go through that. And do join the Be Sober Facebook group as well, because you're going to find a community of people there who will have your back, want you to succeed, and who totally understand what you're going through. So thanks for listening, and I hope that helped and put your mind at ease that those thoughts, yes, they might be coming thick and fast, but it won't be like that forever, I promise.